you enjoyed your journey. For the next 5 weeks, we're going to be talking everything destiny. What does the future hold for us? Join me, 8 p.m. Wednesday, UK time, Instagram Live. Be there. Welcome to the Dystopian Futures. I hope you enjoyed your journey.
Hi everyone, how are you?
For the next 5 weeks,
How are you? Welcome to the Dystopian Futures. I hope you enjoyed your journey. Today we've got a very special guest and we're going to be talking about something that affects absolutely all of us, and it's our planet. So Dystopian Futures is basically a 5-week series and we talk about everything futures. I interview artists from across the world about their kind of ideas and their methodologies for how we can make a better future. So today we have the fabulous Louis V.I. I'm just going to dial him in. Give me 1 second. Hi, Pad. How are you doing? Hi, Sammy. How are you doing? Lebolette. Oh, I don't know. Hi, how are you doing? Hello.
What's up? What's going on?
See, I've just made my dystopian future just for you guys, just for you. So welcome. So yeah, for anybody who's just joining in, I just wanted to say
all the connections going a bit
big
weird.
Fat hello. Can you say that again?
Connections, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's better. We're back on. Technology's on our side again.
Okay. Nah, man, technology's not on any of our sides. We've basically gone back in time, haven't we? I feel like the Stone Ages, but we've got loads of technology to help us. I don't know. Hey, Finding Nilo. Hey, how are you doing? So, yeah, basically before we kick off, for anybody who is joining, a real quick one. If you have any questions, if you want to just say something, if you want to shout, please just write it in the comments and we will literally answer the questions as we're going along. And yes, so we're here today to talk about our planet and we have the fantastic Louis V.I. just to come through and give us some what for. I'm ready for you, babe. I'm ready for you. And your teacup as well, that's super cute.
It's a wavy cup, right? It's a wavy cup.
Wavy cup.
I think it's the waviest cup I own.
Yeah. Probably, mate. Pass it down, don't be throwing it away when you finish with it, save the planet and everything.
I will. My mum brought it back. I can't remember from where. I think it's from India, maybe. So I don't know how she did that without smashing it. I can't bring anything delicate back from anywhere. It just breaks.
Yeah. It just breaks.
It just breaks, man.
Yeah, no, that's not what we want at all. Can you hear me properly on your side just before we start? I've got a fan running in the background, so
I can hear you properly. I'm just going to shut my window as well, just because it's
perfect. Don't worry. Crack on. So, hey everyone. Feel free to ask your questions, and we're going to start now talking about the future of our planet. So, I think the best place to start is for you to introduce yourself, Louis. Definitely.
Damn, that's always the hardest one. How do you summarize this?
Put you on the spot.
The lowdown, basically. Yeah, the lowdown is I'm Louis V.I. Mainly, I am an artist, like a rapper and producer. Been doing that for a while. Currently working on my second studio album, but I have a little bit of a background of being a super geek of the world. I'm just super interested in anything and everything. And most of all, that comes down to kind of the natural world and science, and everything in between, really.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that you're a geek of the world, I tell everybody where this started, though, because you're not just a geek of the world. You actually have degrees to back this geek of the world thing up. It
starts way before that. It starts with my gran videotaping David Attenborough documentaries when I was a little youth. and just watching those back to back to the point, I could basically recite it.
He has the best job in the world, by the way. Like,
I know. I'm trying to be the next. I'm trying to be that next former presenter. I'm not, obviously don't want to emulate what David David has done. But I think, there's a new type of presenter that's kind of needed. So I'll just do it in my own way, and we'll see where it gets. We've already started. I'm sure we'll get onto that, but we've already started doing films and kind of moving that way. But yeah, so it started with that. Started with nature documentaries. Always been fascinated. I think I could spell Pachycephalosaurus, like dinosaurs' names, before I could spell my own name. I pretty much lived at the Natural History Museum as a little youth. As well as like dancing around to like De La Soul and shit. I mean, it was always music and science and nature.
I like it.
And then, like whilst doing music, just before it kind of became a full-time profession, I did a zoology degree as well, which was amazing.
So basically, you could be like the next David Attenborough, and sing to animals as well. So like maybe it could be like this animal therapy thing that you could do.
I don't need to even sing to the animals. I mean, they're singing to us all the time. They're singing to us all the time. Listen, you go underwater and it's loud. The whales are doing it, the birds are doing it. Nice. There's a lot going on.
No, thank you for that introduction. And I think you were the perfect person to speak to for this then, because this whole series is about artists' different perspectives on things, and climate change and our planet is definitely something we should be taking care of, but we're not as much as we should be. What does climate change mean to you?
Man, again, it's a crazy question. I mean, like personally, what climate change means to me is stress. Honestly, I feel like it's a really odd position to be in, to be part of this like thing called humanity that hasn't quite understood its role on this planet yet, to the point that it's destroying it. What we're seeing, as a summary of what climate change is, what we're seeing is essentially never before seen runaway greenhouse gases emissions caused by human activity, heating up the global environment and ecosystem, just through the very standard basis of more of these gases just traps more heat, and heat being that would normally be reflected out from the surface of the earth back into space is just kept in for longer. So hence why it's warming. We're like 1.06 degrees now. So that's like climate change on the science perspective. But climate change is also, it has a huge impact on biodiversity. We're losing like a huge number of species. And these species have been around for millions and millions of years. Tens,
like another mass extinction.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's now, if I was doing zoology now, and anyone that is studying anything to do with biology now will know that we're currently in the Holocene extinction period, which is human created extinction. And I think it's quite sobering, and it's quite hard to digest when you think we've only been around as modern humans really for the last 200,000 or so years, like plus or minus 50,000 years. And we're making animals that have been existing in harmony in their natural environment for millions of years, tens to hundreds of millions of years, and they're going extinct. Like the Indonesian rhino, like the Java rhino and the Sumatran rhino, pretty much completely extinct this year.
Oh, no.
Northern white rhino
as well. Like basically all of our needs and our greed are making all of these animals just fuck off, basically. Which is,
the issue is it's like if we were attacking them on one side, that would be a lot. But we're attacking them on all sides.
All sides.
there's poaching for elephants and rhinos, like most famously, but it also happens for tigers and pangolins as well, which are all basically all of them are used in apart from elephant tusk, which is decorative. They're all using traditional Chinese medicine, which is completely unfounded. And it's mad to say it's tradition because that's a huge fallacy. Like, this is no attack on Chinese culture, but traditional Chinese medicine using these parts is not very old at all. A lot of this inclusion of things like rhino horn and pangolin in this medicine or stuff that's eaten is only from the last 30 years when there was I think the last 30, 40 years from when like the People's Republic was going through a famine, so they allowed them to eat wild animals. So it's like it's a real recent thing, and it's rhino horn is there's zero difference between rhino horn and what's in our nails. There's no difference. So
but obviously nobody's going to start taking off humans, are they? They're just going to go for the animals, and I
mean, I wish they would sometimes, But
no, of course,
but it's that it's poaching, it's deforestation, it's acidification of the ocean. The more the ocean heats up, the more acidic it gets. So that makes that breaks down corals, exoskeletons, because it's all made out of a derivative of like limestone. It's like a calcium deposit. And
didn't even know.
And they eject all their algae and they bleach, and there's like a huge bleaching event going on in Australia that has been every year. It's everyone knows it about the Great Barrier Reef.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So it's on all fronts. So climate change for me, I mean, I think to summarize it in a good way would be climate change means like, it represents humans' misunderstanding of our connection and part of the natural world. Like we do not exist without nature. We exist because of the evolution up until this point of everything. We're part of this whole thing called life. Not to get too psychedelic and trippy, but there's no point where we're not connected to it. There's nothing, to the tree, to the mushroom, to the orcas, to the dolphins, to everything. We are related to all of it, and if we lose it, we don't get it back. And we don't just lose it, but then we lose ourselves and we lose our own identity too, So, what's up, Bella? What's good?
This is it. Hey, Tom Weller. How you doing? So this is it, right? So I think climate change to me is like just disappointment, really. Like disappointment that probably even in myself that I didn't even know how much of the world was getting completely fucked. And it's out there, but the fact that like I could sit around like not really knowing, and then there's kids campaigning about it and stuff, it just made me completely aware that I need to do more. And I think that's what I wanted to have this conversation about. So obviously other people maybe got an understanding if they didn't really know much about climate change, to really just like sit up and listen and see what we can do as well as a collective. So I think that works.
For real. I mean, I had the same thing where I saw, even as someone that did zoology, I felt really like frustrated at myself for not doing more. And then I see all these kids, like saw my godson and his twin. They would do, they've been doing these climate marches every Friday, like one Friday of a month, even more than that. Started being 2 Fridays a month, and I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. And they were like, "Yeah, we've been doing this for ages."
Yeah.
And
they've
it's
been
amazing.
doing the marches for like, was it well over a year? And like people didn't even know really until like recently, which is madness. So
I mean, it was amazing, and it gave me a lot of hope to the future. And the truth is, nature and the biosphere and life is really resilient. If we give it the opportunity to bounce back, it will bounce back. But if you start losing things, when things go extinct, there's no bringing that back. And once things cascade and crash, it's a runaway process that we can't even imagine how bad it's going to be, because we still don't obviously seem to understand how connected everything is. But the good news is that we can do stuff to stop it, and it bounces back. I mean, this corona situation is a great example. Like, emissions are down 17%. I mean, I don't even need to tell you, your breath feels easier outside, and you can hear the birds more, and the skies are clearer.
But also as well, so I was actually reading about coronavirus's effect on emissions, and they're down 17%, which is incredible. So it shows if we actually change our attitude to maybe like working from home more, traveling less, all of that kind of consumable stuff that we were doing in the past, it's made a 17% drop. But then there's still 83% of emissions still happening, and we're in 2020. So, you know, like, for instance, let's talk about the Paris Agreement, because I think this is probably the thing that sums up what we're trying to talk about here. This kind of net zero emissions. Please tell me what you think about the Paris Agreement.
I mean, it's like hard to summarize how pissed off I was at it. It's basically a really good example and symptom of what's wrong with this world. You know, you have all these countries come together and go, hey, what should we do about climate change, and suggest everything, but they know, you know, certain countries like the US and China will never agree on anything just on principle of just not agreeing. And so they make nothing legally binding. So it means it's up to the discretion of all the countries. So if they miss their targets, nothing happens. So how is that a commitment to changing anything? And nothing's been put in legislation. And, you know, that isn't to say it was absolutely pointless, because a lot of countries like France and Germany have invested massively in green technology. You know, China too is a huge investor, and is actually the biggest investor in green technology, which a lot of people are surprised to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's just like, okay, so the thing that we really should be talking about is the next one, the COP26, which is the one that was supposed to be in Glasgow, which has now been postponed for coronavirus.
For a year.
Hugely damaging. But we also have, like...
The fact that it needs postponing for a year is hugely damaging, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
but
you're completely right.
I mean, because we don't have the differences and about everything else. You know, there's terrible things going on in the world, but the thing with this is there's a real clock ticking, and there is a point where it's too late, and we're very close to that point. You know, it's been give or take, you know, 10 to 12 years from about 2-3 years ago. So we've got about 9-8 years to get our shit together, but not just get it together, but like come together in a way that completely changes the face of the earth. And I think right now is the best opportunity ever to do it. I mean, we've been handed an opportunity by Mother Nature with this coronavirus. Yes, it's fucked up, but out of tragedy comes huge opportunity.
100%.
You know, this is time that government should be investing, like de-investing from fossil fuels, because they've massively contributed to the situation we're in anyway. If you create an environment, a warmer planet, you get things that people don't even think about. You get a better environment for viruses and bacteria to exist in, and a larger part of our planet.
Seen.
Yeah, which we're literally seeing. And two, there's a whole heap of viruses and diseases and bacteria that we have never seen before, so would have the same impact as coronavirus or worse, locked up in the permafrost and the poles.
Yeah.
Now, if that melts, suddenly we're exposed to things that we could never imagine. That's
so true. Can you imagine, like, an Antarctic, archaic coronavirus coming to wipe all of our asses off because what we've done, we've just melted it? No, it's true. And sorry, to everybody who's just joined, please feel free to ask your questions. We're talking about the future of our planet, the dystopian futures, and we will try our best to answer them. But you're
Chaos
completely
does
right.
create
So,
opportunity. This guy's right.
well, yeah, chaos creates opportunity. It really does. The thing what I was reading actually that I found super interesting, last year I think so. The natural disasters cost the whole planet over £100 billion last year. Well, sorry, dollars last year. But then looking at what the USA and the European Union pumped into fossil fuels was about $75 billion for subsidies for fossil fuels. So obviously, like anybody who's like just has their normal wits about them would think that money could just go to plugging into, natural resources, and we wouldn't have to spend all of this money. Even if you're looking at a pure economic perspective, like we're getting fucked from both angles here, because it's like taxpayers' money is getting spent there, and then again the natural disasters, which is devastating people's lives and livelihoods. It's like pretty mad.
Right. I think, that's, you hit the nail on the head with this. This is literally the point I've been talking to with all these people from this thing called Climate Lab, which was set up by Doc Society that I went on.
Nice.
And they've been doing loads of workshops since, but that was amazing. And we got to go there from this film that we did that was aimed to get young people of color voting. And we can speak more on that later. But it's really interesting because it's like a lot of people, for climate change is on a lot of people's minds. But, if you are struggling to make ends meet, you've got a crazy mortgage to pay off, or you're paying rent, and you're even like, especially now, you've been furloughed, or even worse, you're not getting anything.
You don't have a job, yeah.
Yeah, you're not thinking, you're like thinking climate change is the bottom of the list, maybe, or at least not at the top. But the truth is, this economic situation is we are in a situation where there's fossil fuel industries are getting their unfair amount of subsidies to allow them to continue on. So fossil fuel, the true price of fossil fuel is not being reflected. Like, the true price of things should be reflected on how much they damage society. I mean, even like Andrew Bailey, who's the head of the Bank of England.
Yeah.
And he said there's a huge argument for not giving bailouts to the fossil fuel industry for the from this crisis to continue a growth of economy. Because you imagine you've got a limited thing that is going to run out, that everyone's pretending isn't going to run out, and part of the value is that it runs out and who controls it. With oil, for example, and people are like, oh well, if people stop the fossil fuel industries, like all these people are going to lose their jobs. That's an absolute lie. These aren't, Shell is not a fossil fuel company. It's an energy company. Yeah. And there's no reason that energy can't be changed to a new resource. Why can't the new resource be solar energy and wind energy and energy created from wave action? And the list of renewable energies that we have access to, and our technology is so advanced already now, there's overtaken oil prices on competitiveness. There's absolutely no reason for us to be investing in it. And that's why you have things like the Green New Deal in America and here, led by, some amazing people.
What is the Green New
honestly
Deal?
One of the best things for the economy and people's jobs. So what was that?
Explain what the Green New Deal is.
So I'm not an expert. A friend of mine and like an activist that I follow that is super dope that everyone should follow is called Fatima Zahra Ibrahim. She is leading the charge of the Green New Deal here. And the Green New Deal is like essentially a plan of action to move the economy and jobs and that whole financial sector to invest in green technologies and sustainable energy and sustainable practices, and have basically a new evolution, like a new industrial revolution, but into a greener future. And it creates so many more jobs because it's a sector that's got so much expansion to do. So it's really crazy when people think it's not like linked to economy, or people are going to lose jobs when they go. It's not. There's no risk in it whatsoever. There's so much. Like, you can power I mean, okay, like this is a small example, but my family's from, actually the flag is above me. My dad's side of the family's from an island called Dominica, right? And
Yeah, of course.
you have so much sun in places like the Caribbean, so every household can have a solar panel. They've got so cheap now that it's not an excuse, and not excuse for governments not to spend on solar panels. You can you have such extreme winds from hurricanes, which they're now starting to learn how to harness and build infrastructure that doesn't get destroyed, but actually collects a lot of that energy from wind turbines on houses or off sea to really inventive, ingenious channels for water to run off that also spin a turbine and also generate electricity. And then also they have hydrothermal power because it's an active volcano, volcanic island. And same with Iceland, same with so many places.
Iceland, yeah. And when I was reading about Iceland, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? We're just getting it so wrong. You know, with the whole solar panels, you know, I was literally watching something about Elon Musk, and he was talking about like how every house in the USA practically could power themselves with solar power. This was about 5 years ago, and obviously we've known about that for ages. But you always have to ask the question, and you know the answer to the question, but the reason why these things aren't happening and the reason why fossil fuels are still getting subsidized is because people want to still keep the power in certain sectors.
It's
like
the power thing.
Yeah, it's a power play constantly. If you started like putting solar panels on your house and like you'd be detached from the system basically. And what does that do? Like, in people's compliancy base, that's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like literally in this time, like I just read an article today that green energy fed 73% of the whole UK's energy system and demands for a weekend, like a week ago, last weekend. Right. So it's like it's already there. It's already there.
Was it an experiment or something? Like
no, it's just it just I don't know the details behind it, but from what I kind of know, which is super limited about the energy sector, is that sometimes there's excess energy, and obviously because of COVID things, then a lot of power plants probably are not doing as much output. So they're seeing if green energy can take on more demands. Also, it's been super sunny. It's also been quite windy as well. So there's lots of factors that might have contributed to that. But I mean,
Howard London says we're using less energy right now. Offices are not open, etc., which is true, you know, like, and we're just not really doing much. So, but this could be like a blueprint for the future. Talking about that actually. So we talked about like obviously the issues that we're facing now, but we'll go further into detail on that. When we're trying to come out of COVID, there's going to be a mass bailout. You talked about how like they were already bailing out. Hey, DR Tropical, hello. And you talked about how they were already bailing out in like the oil industries and stuff. But also look at aviation. You know, that industry is like collapsing to its knees, but it's also one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases. So, you know, it feels like at this time we should be making policies, bailing these people out, but making policies as well to make sure that they're a lot more sustainable when they come back. Do you know what I mean? Because they're asking for billions of pounds, and obviously we don't want travel like that to go. But yeah, it's like a conundrum, man. I wonder how to get out of it.
I feel like we can all agree, we don't want our hard-earned taxes to be spent on something that damages the world. I think everyone is pretty unanimous on that, regardless of what your political beliefs are, your religious beliefs, like anything. You don't want your taxes to be spent on something that's going to harm the atmosphere, the air that your kids and you and your family have to breathe, and threatens, you know, your food supply, threatens whether your buildings... You know, up north in Yorkshire, like they had flooding again this year, like crazy flooding, and that's climate change, man. And it's the weather's only going to get more and more wild. We're only 1 degree above pre-industrial roots, and the current trajectory we're on is is 4 degrees Celsius, which is being described by scientists unanimously as catastrophic. I mean, the world would be unrecognizable.
When are we supposed to get to there? When are we supposed to get to 4 degrees? Like,
it'll be within this century.
Right.
But we have the difference is we have this 8-year window, which some people get confused about, is the time that we have to divert it from going like that. Because obviously, even if we stopped everything now, it would run on for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like, you know, there's so many interesting opportunities. Like, I'll quickly answer your last question. I'll tell you about one of these interesting opportunities that I've read about.
No, carry on.
But our taxes should be not used to bail out for fossil fuels and things like aviation companies, especially like airlines like Virgin, where you have, you know, Richard Branson just had, you know, he has the money. He should not be asking it. And all his money is in tax havens and stuff. It's bullshit. But
yeah,
essentially,
it's bullshit, Richard. It's bullshit.
Richard, it's bullshit.
Richard!
I always thought I would quite like him for some reason when I was younger, but I obviously was wrong. But he's obviously an absolute arsehole. But
never ever meet your like childhood heroes or do more reading about them, because they live lives too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but he was never close to a hero or anything like that. He was never close to that.
I'm tarnishing him with that
is,
out.
I know, for real. But you're right. We have this opportunity right now, yeah. So my thinking is, okay, listen, we're at this point where we've, you know, it's not a complete reset, it's not complete zero and default, but we have an opportunity to go, right, we're coming out of this. Let's not use this money to save an industry like the fossil fuel industry and aviation in the way it is, that's destroying our planet and got us into this situation. Let's take that money and let's put it into something that actually is going to safeguard our future. And I mean, it's the most logical sense. I've never written to my MP ever, and I wrote to my MP about this because I was so scared that I was going to see the Tories just propping up fossil fuel industries again. And even the Bank of England is advising people not to invest in it because. So, I mean, like you said, imagine the insurance costs. Imagine the cost is going to cost all these industries. The financial sector is going to be way beyond anything they could ever make in any profit margin ever. Yeah. When a natural disaster hits, it's like
when a big enough one as well. Like, you know, I think in the last year, you know, that 2019 figure, what is it going to be for 2020? Because I would class COVID as a natural disaster as well. You know what I mean? It's hit the whole world. It's stopped it. So I wonder how big that cost of what's happening now, which is basically Mother Nature's way of telling us to wise up and get off the planet. You know, how much does that actually cost us? Like,
it will be something that's not even. It won't be a number that we can comprehend because I mean, I heard on like the news today is something, you know, it's in the tens of billions a week
already
that businesses are losing in the UK alone.
Right.
I mean, that's like a ridiculously high number. I didn't even think we were operating with those kind of numbers. But it's just, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And it's a really good opportunity. And I think we can do loads. And I can't remember who commented earlier. Someone said, there's so many things that we could use this opportunity to try things like New Zealand's doing, trying like a 4-day working week where it puts less intensity on people, but also the environment. Like if people are traveling less, maybe the future holds people working from home more. People have got to spend time with their families a bit more and realize, you know, they don't want to be stuck in offices. And actually there's not much of a difference between the productivity between working at home and working in an office. In fact,
and also I think 4 days and 5 days depends what you're working on at that time. But like, you know, it is actually quite a sustainable model. I think the one thing about like COVID, what it has done, I think hopefully people would agree, it's allowed us to understand like what kind of quality of life you can have when not everything is happening at once. You know what I mean? You don't have to get on the tube for an hour. you can work from home. You can have that extra like hour in the day. Do you know what I mean? Just to stay home, like you said, look at your children, your partner, whatever, or go for your 1 hour exercise and like actually walk around in clean air. It's just such a big difference, basically. So yeah,
it is.
Hopefully we
It is
won't
like that.
go back.
Maybe it is. You know, I hope people take away from this that life isn't about you know, the GDP and economic growth. The economy should be based on quality of life. It's insane that it's not. It's like, why do we incentivize destruction rather than the quality of people's lives? Because everyone wants a good quality life. Everyone wants that. Everyone could agree that that's the way. And I think,
but a good quality life, like I think a lot, it means so many different things to different people. Do you know what I mean? And where we've got to at the moment, a good quality of life to some people would be having a lot of money and making sure that they can buy what they want. Whereas other people want to be like out in the country and so, and just because we haven't all kind of experienced the kind of same quality of life, I think it's just capitalism basically. That's why, it's, you know, never measured on
you
happiness,
smashed it.
it's measured on GDP. Yeah.
You smashed it in saying that, like, you know, okay, yeah, I mean, it 100% is capitalism, but also like you smashed it in saying not everyone's quality of life is the same. But I do also think that we can agree that everyone wants to be able to breathe clean air, and everyone wants to be able to not be threatened by natural disasters and have their food resources threatened. And also, like, I mean, even more so, and this is what the film was talking about, like, as people of color and people that have, you know, relatives in the diaspora of the world that are closer to the equator, these places are completely on the front line. And, you know, the things that we're imagining what's going to be happening in 8 years here is already happening.
Yeah.
Like, Dominica got hit by the strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in the Caribbean, and which was massively increased by climate change. And those were three hurricanes in a row, which has never been seen before. And
now, and it becomes like more the new normal, right? And
and Sudan droughts, like, you know, the temperature levels that we're seeing, the fires in Australia, the fires that are going on right now
in the Antarctic. Is it there's some fires
in the Arctic?
Yeah, like
the Arctic,
what the fuck?
In the
Even
Arctic
when
Circle.
you were younger, like, would you think like that fires would be? I don't know. I always thought it would just be a bit too cold for that. You know, we've got basically lakes and lakes in the Greenland that are completely like water now. The thing is, right, one, I think you've touched on a point that I definitely wanted to go and explore. So climate change, is that a person of colour, a poor person's problem, basically? And that is a challenging way of saying it, but I think you'll get what I mean. Because the places that are getting hit now, obviously we're on an island. It's quite cold generally, so a little bit more heat isn't scaring people in Britain too much at the moment because, you know what I mean, that people like more heat. But if you go to places where, like you said, black and brown people are on the front line, or even if you look at places in America, for instance, you know, we've got massive groups of like black communities living right next to kind of power plants because that's the cheapest places for them to live. And then not only are they breathing the air from the power plants, but then they'll get hit by the hurricanes. And I read something completely mad. So I think this was Hurricane Katrina, I believe, and I'll need to fact check this, but basically the government in the USA gave the space of Hurricane Katrina $4 billion to protect the oil and gases, the like reserves in that area. But then you've got people from Hurricane Katrina, mostly black population, and all like it's not a rich area. They didn't get anything to rebuild their houses. And you see that kind of approach of like, it's again like a power in protecting the fossil fuels instead of the people, and the people who are getting like the brunt of it at the moment are not white. Majority.
And I mean, God, there's so many points. And I mean, like, let's be honest, climate change isn't something, it's not a recent phenomenon. This is something that started with, you know, the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. Like, climate change the destruction of the environment has been going on an industrial level since those days. And, you know, that's perpetrated by mainly the white Western world, historically, and more recently, more globally. But, like, I think there's two answers to your question that I have. The first one is, yes, you know, it may feel like here we're further away from everything, and when it gets warmer, it's actually nicer. Like everyone, you know, myself included, I'm gassed when it's sunny here because it feels like most of the year it's not. Here. And I'm out there getting my vitamin D like everyone else, like if I can. Obviously, socially distancing and washing my hands and shit. But like, better be telling me, man. But I think what's really interesting is you've got to think about how society's set up, and you started to touch on it a bit, but like in London and cities across the UK, black, Asian, and like ethnic minority people are 4 times more likely to have lung disease related to air pollution and degraded air quality, because the areas that they live have far worse air quality, because it's usually poorer areas where you have huge roads, you have factories spewing stuff, and where it's not monitored, and less green spaces. And then
look at COVID, what happened after something which is a respiratory disease comes in, kills them people who, you know, just generally are just trying to live, but it's affected by the environment. So
a black man is 4 times more likely to die from COVID than anyone else, and that's, you know, that's not a genetic thing, that's a social economic thing. And that's exactly the same situation as climate change. And historically, when you have things like natural disasters happen, exactly like Hurricane Katrina, it is like black and ethnic minorities that bear the brunt of it across the world. So, you know, if you're sitting if you're sitting in the UK thinking it's not to do with me, I hate to say it, but let's hope I'm not proved right, because I don't want to see that. But unfortunately, all the evidence and all the facts says that it is 100% the problem of people of color as well. And the second point is, like, you know, if you're a person of color and you have relatives around the world, like so many of us do, and we're part of a diaspora, these places really are on the front line. Go speak to your relatives, ask them what's going on. Like, I speak to my relatives in Dominica, like they're still recovering from the disruption of it. Like, it wiped out the mango industry there for a bit. Everyone's yards were gone. There was a food shortage. They felt climate change. My friend who has family in Sudan, big up Mo, he's like, his family is suffering from drought all the time. There's extreme drought, and then there's extreme flooding. It happens. Nigeria is one of the best examples of this. There'll be extreme drought.
Extreme, and like the temperatures like reaching nearly 50 degrees. You know, people can't.
But then you have rain.
No rain.
But then if you have rain in that, there's huge flooding, like Sierra Leone's flooding happens because of that. And you have basically, you know, think of climate change as someone getting the knob of like how crazy weather's going to be on the world, and just going, and how random and unpredictable, and just going like this. It just makes everything so unstable. And people think, you know, the world is normally like this period we've lived in that's a period of calm. But historically, this is, you know, the world has never been calm. It's just we live in such a short lifespan as humans. And it's even worse that, you know, politicians live in such a short lifespan of like 4 years here, where they're not thinking future-wise ever. So it's like...
It's a very good point.
It's mental.
Everybody's just trying to get themselves back into power, you know, for them next 4 years or whatever, and there's no kind of long-term planning. You could go the other way, though, and like just get a dictatorship. Where is it? Is it Budapest? Is it where?
Hungary just got a dictatorship.
Now got a dictatorship. I wonder if he's going to do better for the climate. We need to pick something good out of that. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, there's an argument for China's reaction to COVID, and, you know, also investing in green energy. They're not asking their population; they're doing it because you know, there's also an economic interest, obviously, but there's
Cool.
also an environmental interest. But
It's like
I
a
think
race to the moon. It's, you know, it's the same thing. If somebody actually cracks it on a large scale, and a continent or a country cracks it, that's like a gold mine. And I'm sure they're all looking into that, you know. But
countries have cracked it. Costa Rica has been completely self-sustainable, running off renewable energy, I think, for 3 years now.
Right. And Iceland as well. They're completely.
I think Iceland's nearly 100%, but not quite. It's like in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
Costa Rica
it's
as well, such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
All them
I
animals.
would love to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So many animals. I mean, we haven't even talked about animals yet. That's
No,
what
we're
I
gonna
really
get to
care
it. We're
about.
gonna get to it. Don't chill. Look, I'm gonna just do you an underwater scene behind my head, so you're like stuck and into the vibe of the animals. Don't worry.
On this underwater thing, before I forget this is something interesting for all you lot. This is a brand new, fresh off the top of the pile of new science. So kelp, or like, you know, seaweed, the family of seaweed, sea moss is part of this, but sea moss actually is a slightly sadder story, but I won't go into that. But
okay,
because it's a bit over-farmed. But kelp and seaweed could be a real answer to like stopping catastrophic climate change, because it's a really untapped resource. Kelp farms are really easy to do, and actually people don't know, but so many of the things in the food they eat, like some of like the stabilizing agents, come from kelp. So it's already used in that respect, but also it's a food stuff that has a lot of minerals and protein in it, as people that like know about sea moss know. And it's something that could replace a lot of things that are really damaging in our diet. And when you have kelp forests and kelp farms, it creates a natural ecosystem for animals as well. So you start being able to like combine that with like oyster farms and mussel farms. It stops like excess nutrients in the ocean, which creates like algal blooms, which releases loads of CO2, and it obviously, like trees, sucks in a hell of a lot of CO2 and puts out loads of oxygen. So, you know, if you planted, and there's so much space for that, because there's no destruction to the natural environment, or little to none, and you could put it all over the world. You could have these. So that's an interesting thing.
Helping nature, basically, instead of us getting involved and just like not helping it. Because I was looking at like climate change technologies, and I was like, right, okay, what do I think is actually good? And it was just, one of them was just a dead mad idea to like CO2 capture and turn it into bricks kind of thing. And I was like, what would we do with all of them fucking bricks? But that's just, can you imagine it just like fall on your house or fall on you from the sky? It'd be shit. But no, like, what can we do with them? Like, the kelp farm is so much less.
Everyone will be like, what? It's raining fucking soot. It'll be like being back in the Victorian days. It'll be fucked.
Hey, right, I should be Prime Minister. I've got the ideas. Like, I've got what we can do with the bricks. We're going to create a really big, eco-friendly, sustainable club that goes on for a month, because after this, I think we'll all need a big, fat fucking rave. So, yeah.
But you can't touch the walls, though, because you just come out covered in soot, though.
Yeah.
You'll be like, it's like one of those clubs.
Sorry.
You got to be like...
Whole new meaning to it, like that.
But that, I mean, that's interesting, because I think, like, you know, there are these technologies that can take sequester carbon dioxide out of the air, and like methane is actually even worse. But I think it's a cop out. You know, we've got natural solutions. It's a cop out of us not changing our like actions and and the way we live. It's like going, oh, well, let's keep going and like fucking up the environment, but, you know, we'll suck out CO2 and it'll make it okay. That's just not how it's going to work.
And it's just like, just sort it out, instead of like trying to do it and then do another industry to suck it out. Somebody said that Denmark was actually 100% renewable as well. You know, there's these, these cities and countries, and
they're probably moving towards.
Say that again.
I feel like they could be moving towards it. I don't know for a fact, but I know there's a lot of countries that are doing amazing things, and it shows that everywhere could do it. And I think it honestly, you know, I think the top 10 biggest companies contribute as much as all the world's. I think they contribute a third of the world's global emissions. So, you know, a lot of it doesn't just rely on, this isn't just governments, this is companies that we need to like really, really hold accountable. And I think you've got like, I mean, okay, this is a good way to think of it. And this is what this is how we need to tackle it in our minds before we tackle it anywhere else. We live on a planet that makes that it what's the word I'm thinking of? It incentivizes the destruction of the ecosystem. Because think of this as an example. You have one man that goes to a bank and goes, I want to take out a loan. And they go, what for? And they go, oh, to protect this patch of rainforest. There's this patch of rainforest. It's really biodiverse. There's all sorts of animals in there. There's orangutans, everything. I want to protect it. Don't want it to get chopped down into palm oil. So I'd love to buy this thing and maybe have some tourists come. I don't know. But I just want to purchase this land. And they're like, okay, great. But you got to pay back interest because that's how banking works. Like, how do you pay back that interest if you're just buying this land? And he's like, oh, shit, well, I can't pay back your, 6% monthly, yearly interest on the loan. And they're like, well, sorry, we can't give you a loan. So this other guy comes along and goes, hey, I want to buy this patch of rainforest, the same patch. I'm going to cut it all down and actually hire a workforce to plant palm oil, and I'm going to sell that. And you can have your money back ASAP.
And you can have it back in tenfold, And what are they going to pick? They're going to pick for it to become back in tenfold, and that's the problem.
And both people could absolutely love orangutans. They could be the biggest nature enthusiasts ever. But the problem is, if you have a system, an economy, a capitalist system that incentivizes the destruction of our natural environment, that's always going to be someone that comes along to do it. So they might as well do it. And it another way to think of it is this: is like evolution is increasing move towards complexity. So you have a tree and it's infinitely complex. It provides shelter for a huge number of animals. It provides food. It releases oxygen, takes in carbon to make the air breathable. It communicates with other trees and it's part of an ecosystem in the forest. It stops like runoff of earth going into the local river. So it means that the local river's water is really clean and there's abundant fish. It goes on and on and on. But then we as humans go, like, we need money here and now. That tree's not making me money here and now. I need to chop it down into wood planks and sell those wood planks. Now that tree, if it gets cut or like sets on fire a bit, it can heal itself because it's complex. It's a self-healing, non-fragile system, But as soon as you cut down a tree, it becomes this simpler, non-complex, extremely fragile thing.
Just becomes a commodity, though. It just becomes a commodity as soon as you chop it down, and that is the problem. Right?
But then what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do with a plank of wood, though? You're going to sell it, right? Because you can't do anything. So you make it even simpler. So what we're doing as humans, and this is basically, I should have said this is a summary for climate change. What we're doing as humans is we're taking evolution, which moves towards complexity, and making it simple and fragile. And there's going to be a point that it collapses because everything's so fragile.
Yeah, you're completely right. We're down to our last 5 minutes now, actually. So we will cover. I know, it's mad. I can't believe it. And you're like, but I want to continue. But then Instagram chopped us off. Thanks, man. So the background was actually created by Kim Duan-Kwak. She is an amazing French artist, and I'm going to be posting some more of her stuff. And I had to put this background for you because I was like, come on, man, all the jungles and the sea, everything.
I used to be called Jungle VIP back in the day as well.
Well, I didn't even know. I was just here representing my image of you, and this is what I came up with, basically.
I feel it. I take it.
It's so funny. But I want to say to everybody, before we get into our last couple of minutes of chat, If you have any questions, please let us know and we will answer them. We're talking about the future of our planet and how important it is right now to actually stay aware and stay kind of, in it really. And, you know, it's so funny that you were talking about the orangutans. I saw this search engine called Escocia. So it's a search engine that basically when you use it,
yeah,
like
I've got that one.
They'll start planting trees, I think, and like protecting rainforests. And I just think that was actually a really cute invention for climate change. You know, these little things that we can actually do. And I think that was really, really quite gorgeous. Let's talk about animals super quick, and then we'll talk about, or do you want to talk about how you're going to continue? Like, how are you basically going to make a change now for the climate? How are you going to continue after
let's talk about how we're going to make a change. We're running out of time. Let's talk about how people can make a change. Like, the number one contributor to all of this is actually methane, as well as carbon dioxide, but methane is way more. And there's no beating around the bush that just comes from the industrialized meat industry and the scale that we eat meat. And, you know, you combine that with the amount of rainforest, like the Amazon rainforest is cleared for cattle farming in Brazil, and that loads of that beef comes directly to the UK. Loads of rainforest in Asia, like in Indonesia and Malaysia, and, you know, the home of like amazing animals like the orangutan, who is like our closest descendant. We're chopping down their forest for palm oil, which is in so much of our stuff. So a good first one is to stop, or at least minimize how much meat you eat. And I used to be the biggest carnivore in the world. Trust me, I love my meat. And it's not that hard to slow it down, and you start stopping and you realize it's much more of a mental thing than an actual real physical thing.
And
it's not as enjoyable as you think.
I'm joking.
Huh?
So just don't go to barbecues either. Like, you'll be fine.
Well, I go to barbecues all the time, and there's nothing like a barbecued green pepper. Trust me.
What about an aubergine? Nah, I love aubergine.
Aubergine doesn't really work on barbecues.
Yeah, true, actually. True.
I love aubergine, but not on barbecues.
But, so obviously,
check
eating
things
less
for
meat.
palm oil. Huh?
Eating less meat and the palm oil thing, like.
The palm oil thing is I've been lucky enough to be in Southeast Asia a couple of times, and it's one of the worst things ever, seeing one of the oldest jungles. I think it is the oldest jungle on the planet, in the Philippines and places like that, with like the harpy eagle, which is the biggest eagle in the world, which is such a beautiful animal.
Yeah.
It's almost extinct because people like Nestle and all these companies are chopping it down for palm oil. So check your shit for palm oil, because there's no reason to be using palm oil. It's just cheap. That's it. That's it. And you see, honestly, forever into the distance of palm oil. It's horrible, man.
It's really bad. And on a local level as well, you know, obviously now we're doing less traveling, etc. So is there anything said to, like, I don't know, urban farming or like cycling, or like, what can we do? Because we're here now and we're not there. So.
I mean, I guess, like, I'm sure everyone's had it, but like, I've been doing more exercise and walking and cycling more than I ever have. In fact, in cities like London, you don't need to travel on a car. So why are you doing it? You can cycle and Huh?
Yeah, you could go on public transport, but
public transport is incredible here. And you know, but these are little local things you can do, and you can do much bigger things by who you fucking vote for. Like, make sure you vote for people that have a genuine green approach and know about the Green New Deal if you're in the UK or in the US. And
write to your MP. Do what you did. Just write to your MP as well and start kind of getting that communication up, because they have to start listening.
Listen, they have to listen to us, man. The people do have the power, and I feel like we've forgotten about that a little bit. And it's time that we remind the people that are in the in politics that we do have the power, and we won't vote for them again unless they do these things. You know, we have levity over them. You know.
No, I hear you. So we are coming to the end, and that was the final